is the 2025 edition of Chevy Chase Jeopardy, the game where candidates will compete for glory and fame tonight. And we're looking forward to that. And hopefully it will be a friendly competition, right? No blood. And tonight, though, I'm Kirk Renaud. I'm the chair of the election board. And my colleague Karen Elkins is back there. She's also on the election board with Grant Davies, who is in London tonight, and use that as an excuse for not being here. So there you go. Maybe he's going to be online. But I do want to especially thank our mayor, Irene, for being here tonight. She's here a lot, and for her to come to these things is a testimony to the great job she does and the commitment to the town. So thank you, Irene, for being here. Yeah. And the way it's going to work tonight, just so you know, is that we're going to be dealing mainly with questions that residents have submitted to the town. And we'll give the candidates a chance to answer those so we can get to know them a little bit. We'll try to do this in fairly short order, so no long speeches, more than an hour per question. We're going to limit it to that. But now let me introduce our candidates, Tamara Leonard and Carlo Calella. And I thank you both for doing this. It's a great gift that you're giving our town of your time and your commitment to run for the town council, and we really appreciate it. So, right, folks? Yeah. And I want to thank you for being here. Those of you on Zoom and those here in the town hall with us, thank you for your attention as well. We're going to start out with just a brief question. The categories that we're going to look at tonight, I don't know if you could see all of those. The Jeopardy categories. Can anyone hum the tune to Jeopardy before we get started here? Okay, that's enough. That's enough. The categories tonight are community, environment, communications, housing, public safety, budget, and the ever popular potpourri. So I'm going to start you out, though, for potpourri for 10 and give this one to Tamara to tell us a little bit about why you want to be on the town council, what background you have that makes you think that this would be a good thing for you to do. Remember to turn that on, yeah. And
the first thing. So as most of you know, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. As most of you know, I've been co-chair on the Community Relations Committee for the past 4 years, and we organize events to enhance the feeling of community in the town. And I also was a member on the Long Range Planning Committee. And why do I want to run? When I heard that the town was looking for candidates, I thought it would be a good opportunity. So I thought I would throw my hat in the ring. And I see it as a way to continue serving the town, but in a broader way. And I'm looking, forward. I'm glad to be a candidate.
All right, thank you. Carlo, same question.
Well, to start by adding my thanks to everybody for being here in person and on Zoom. And I've only lived here for 3 years with my wife, Sally, and it immediately felt like home to us. And I just feel so appreciative of being part of this community, and had thought that I would love to participate in town events as best I could. This past fall, I joined the Public Services Committee. My background sort of is well suited to that area in particular. But, I thought that in time, maybe I would serve on the council. I retired from a vice president position at the University of Maryland in the fall and had a lot of opportunity to work with the city of College Park, with the Prince George's County, with the state of Maryland. So I thought that in time I might be able to contribute here. And when the opportunity came up to do that more quickly than I had expected, I thought, sure, I really like it here. I think I can offer something, and want to listen to the community and work. I'm very, very impressed. I mean, one of the many things I'm impressed with about being here is the council itself, the staff, the volunteers, and just the community spirit. And to sort of be a part of that is very exciting for me. So I'm honored to be a candidate.
Okay, correct answers for both of you. That's $10 each, Karen. All right, Tamara, this is going to be a tough one for you to answer now. What town social events have you enjoyed in the last few years and why?
So as co-chair of the Community Relations Committee, I think I've actually been to most of them, and I'm not going to necessarily choose a favorite. I thought they were all great, and it was a great chance to meet neighbors. But I will say that the past few that I've been to, the Puzzle Palooza was a very charming little low-key event. That was a nice way to meet neighbors of all ages. The theater discussion group was lovely. And the book fair was also quite, it was interesting to see how many authors we had in the town.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Another correct answer. Carlo, would you take a stab at that one?
I think every single one of the events I've attended, I've enjoyed. I really have. But, the few that stand out the most to me, I think starts with the 4th of July. That event, it just sort of seems to embody one of the things that I really love about the town, how multi-generational it is, how civic oriented it is. There's just a lot of activity and being, helping with, volunteer with the setup and take down that sort of stuff gave me a chance to get to know some people. Another sort of similar event that I really enjoyed is the chili dinner each year, both because you get to, meet folks and it's a good time of the year to have a chili celebration, but also to be able to raise some funds. And I think that's a really nice thing to be able to do at these events is to raise some funds to put towards a good cause. And then more locally, the block party that we get to participate in on our block is a really fun way to get to know our immediate neighbors in a more in-depth way. So a number of really great opportunities that I've had the pleasure to participate in.
Great. All right. Thank you. Carlo, let's stick with you and go to the communications category. As you know, there are lots of ways the town communicates with residents. We've got the town forecast, we've got the listserv, we have a number of things that even by mail that we do. But still, given all this, some people will occasionally say, nobody ever told me about this or that event. So I'm wondering if you have any thoughts about how we can kind of cut through all the clutter that we all have in our email boxes and so forth, and have any ideas about how we can reach residents more effectively.
Yeah, I think it's a societal challenge. We have information is so easy now to propagate, and I think it's a hard thing to do. In my past roles, I've heard that critique as well. I didn't get that information, and I think, well, there were this many emails and this many newsletters and this and that, but I think being clear and concise. I find for myself, what I pay the most attention to are communications that come to me that are kind of quick and to the point. And I think that can help kind of rise, this is a communication worth listening to because it doesn't waste my time. And I think we need just different mediums for different folks. Some people love the long form in paper. Some people just want a text blast. So I think we'll have to use different mediums to reach more people.
Okay. All right. Tamara, anything to add to that?
We think about this on the Community Relations Committee because sometimes we run into people who say they've never heard of our events. Ideas. I think that, we're consistent in where we put the information, and if we can, somehow let people know what channel it's going to come in through, then they can keep an eye out for it.
Okay. All right. All right. Let's stick with you, Tamara, and let me ask you about national issues. It's kind of a potpourri question, maybe. Occasionally, people will come to the town council and they will ask for support or ask the town to be involved in an issue that's important to them. It might be something like gun control or anti-Semitism or whatever is a concern to them at the moment. So I'm wondering how the town council should decide when to be involved in those kinds of things. What sort of principles would guide your thinking on that?
I guess I would start with thinking about the fact that it's a nonpartisan entity, the council, and what would normally be within the authority of the town council, what is within the purview of its activities, and whether there's consensus on whatever the issue is. That's the issue of the day. Because of course, people individually and, in combination can, advocate for certain issues, but wouldn't necessarily be the job of the town council. So I think it also depends on the issue.
Okay. Carlo?
Yeah, I agree very much with that. And I think in order to, first off, I'm not sure that it's appropriate for the town council to take a position, but if it were to take a position on something, it would have to do a lot to make sure it's representative of our community. And that would be a very big undertaking to make sure that our community is accurately and fairly represented. So I think it's as much as we feel, I think many of us feel very strongly about many things that are going on. It's not clear to me that it's the town council's responsibility to speak to that.
Okay. All right. Well, let me stay with you, Carlo, and we'll go to the environment category next for $10 here. Okay. So as you know, gas-powered leaf blowers have been banned in the town.
Right.
After a long campaign, really, to get that accomplished. And I'm wondering if you think now the town should move to ban any other types of equipment that might be loud or gas-powered, in addition to leaf blowers.
It's probably an area I would want to learn a bit more about in terms of, like the noise part. I think that was very straightforward. Also, I know just my own experience that the equipment now that is battery operated for lawn stuff works pretty well, and that wasn't always the case. But if there are noise issues, sort of seeing where those noise issues are, what are the sources of that, address that in a local way. I think we do a very nice job of encouraging sustainable practices of all sorts, including with energy and the community solar program and the fairs we have that encourage folks to consider things like solar panels, which we're happy to be. I think we're the newest folks in the neighborhood with solar panels on our roofs. We're very excited about that. So I think advocacy and making it educating our community, and even in some cases encouraging rebates and partnerships that are really great things, but let people make good choices rather than mandate.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Tambra, environment for 10.
I should mention that one of my husband's proudest moments was being one of the first people to get a rebate for our battery-powered leaf blower. But I haven't thought that much about other noise issues, and I would be happy to hear of people's concerns, and I certainly will be on the lookout, or I will be listening for other noise issues, because it does affect our quality of life. So.
Okay. All right. And, let me stop for a second and mention to those of you on Zoom that if you have questions that you would like considered, please put them in the chat, and Karen will look at those later and let me know if there's some that we want to work in later. And also, we don't expect you to have all the answers for all of these tricky questions. And if there's a tough question that comes out, you can use a lifeline to ask your spouse what the answer should be. That's what I do. and it works for me. So keep that in mind. All right. Well, let's go to the public safety category. And Carlo, I know you're aware of the accident on Bradley, and there've been some other issues that have popped up in the town. Gunshots at BCC High School, that sort of thing. And people have asked about, how could the town do a better job of keeping them informed about things like that, and if there are other things that should be done about those kinds of public safety issues.
Yeah, I think public safety is a really, really important issue to any community. And I think we're very fortunate that safety here is quite high. But when things like these examples you mentioned come up, we always ask ourselves, what more can we do? I think with regard to criminal activities and notifications of that, part of my job at the university, in my portfolio of responsibilities included police and public safety. So I have a lot of familiarity with communications, and we were very active in, text alerts to the university community members whenever things of that sort would happen. And I know that there's conversations at least starting with Montgomery County Police Department, who have jurisdiction, and seeing if there's some way to have that kind of communication, because it needs to be very timely and it's very, very critical. In addition to that, I think more that we can do to encourage people to be situationally aware, to do the preventive things that they can do around their homes, to report any suspicious activity or concerns. It provides law enforcement, information that's valuable in terms of how they allocate resources, and it also, I think, helps all of us become aware of what's going on. And awareness is really, really important. So those are a few thoughts. I'm sure there are many more that I will come to in consultation with council and community members in the couple of years ahead.
All right, thanks, Carlo. Tamara, community safety.
I guess that this is an area that I definitely am aware of, and I typically have gone to the listserv or our Facebook group to see, what's happening. I would be interested in engaging further to find out what can be done, and everything that Carlo has said sounds very interesting.
Okay. Well, while we're on that topic, Tambra, as you know, there used to be, or maybe you don't know about this, but there was once a block captain system in the town, and that was meant to be a way of communicating with residents, particularly about safety issues. And in the digital age, it seemed like that was maybe less necessary. But I wonder if you have any thoughts on whether a system like that would be useful to bring back again or not.
I guess what I would say is I'd like to learn more. It sounds intriguing. It also sounds like also a way for people to be in better touch and to know what's going on, on their street. So it could only sort of increase awareness. So it could be a good idea, and I'd be happy to see, what other neighbors think of it. Okay.
Carlo, thoughts about block captains?
Yeah, I actually participated as a block captain years ago when I lived elsewhere, and it was, as Tamara said, a great way to connect with neighbors and share information. It fizzled as well because I think it's an easy thing to set up. It's a harder thing to keep up. So I would want to learn a little bit more about the history here, and possibly, but need to learn a lot more about that.
Okay. Well, let's come back to community participation questions, Carlo. There are many people in the town who, like you, have given a lot of time and service to the town. But it's a fairly small amount in terms of percentage of the population that lives here. And I wonder if you can think of any ideas about how we encourage more participation, more representative of the population that we have.
Yeah, I think a direct solicitation, a direct ask by someone is perhaps the most effective way to get people to volunteer and participate more. We talked earlier about communications, and you always learn about volunteer opportunities that way. But if your neighbor, your friend, someone you walk the dog with says, "Hey, I'm doing this, and would you consider joining?" I think that's a very powerful way. I think another thing, and this was part of my own experience here, providing people sort of bite-sized chunks of opportunity to participate. So you're not making a commitment for many years. You're just going to help set up for 4th of July day, right? Those things are a lot easier to manage. And if we do more of those, it leads people to, I think, being more open to more volunteer opportunities and then expanding that network of volunteers.
Okay, and you want to rely on the dog network, it sounds like, the dog walking network to
It's powerful. It's
expand
powerful
that.
dog
All
walk
right.
network.
Tambra, how about you? What do you think about getting more participation?
Well, this is also something we've kind of thought about in the context of the Community Relations Committee and trying to get people to come to events. But I would say I agree with Carlo that a direct ask is often powerful. I also think that being on the lookout for new neighbors who move in and, approaching them and letting them know what's going on and ways that they can participate is, a way to have that direct contact. And there is also a welcome bag that we've been trying to get off the ground that that will, would inform people who move here of opportunities.
Okay, all right. Okay, Carlo, let me come back to you for a communications question for 25 now. Town Neighbors is fantastic resources that many people in the town rely on for communications. And it is expertly moderated by a tireless volunteer who does an awful lot for the town. But one of our neighbors has asked about, well, whether the town should have any more direct involvement with the listserv in determining rules about who should be allowed to participate or not, that kind of thing. So would you comment on that, the listserv?
Yeah, I enjoy the listserv tremendously. I do think it provides a terrific resource for the town. As you mentioned, it is a private listserv, and I know the town has formal communication mechanisms to go through, and I think town is obviously benefits and appreciates messages being amplified and other things that are done through the listserv, but I don't know that it's the town's prerogative to intervene into what's essentially a private activity. That activity needs to follow, I think, its own rules, but I don't know that it's the town's to jump in. It's something I'd love to learn more about. I mean, it's a topic that's come up recently, so I'm aware of it, but I feel like I still need to learn a bit more to have much more to say on that.
Okay. All right, Tambra, listserv for 25.
I also really appreciate the listserv and appreciate the moderators. And I understand it's a private entity, and so it's hard to see how the town would have any role in it. I mean, it does benefit people, but I don't see how that benefit translates into a town function. So that's where that's where my thinking is on that.
Okay. All right, Carlo, let's go to the budget category here. And no, we're not gonna, no, I'm sorry, Deborah, I know, Deborah, we'll leave your question for the end, please.
Should the town be endorsing and promoting town neighbors when the moderator can ban someone totally from posting messages or communicating with neighbors, and there is no, and the town neighbors serves a community, serves sharing information, it's all a public service, even though it's a private listserv, but the town is endorsing the listserv by linking from the town crier.
All right, Deborah, thank you. That's not something we're going to be able to resolve tonight, though. Well, okay.
That was a question I submitted in timely fashion, and it has not been answered.
All right. Well, if there's time at the end, maybe we'll have a little more time to get back to some questions, but we have a lot to get through first. And back to the budget. In fact, I want to use my lifeline here and ask our mayor to tell us how much is in the reserve budget at this time. Because I want to ask you about, do you see any particular ways to use that you would suggest? But 19.1 million. Okay. It's a nice reserve to have. Carlo, would you have any thoughts about what should be done with that, or whether we should keep it for a very, very rainy day?
Just a point of clarification, some of that is already earmarked for some of the improvement projects. Yeah. No, so I just want to be clear about that. And one of the things that I've observed is some of the investments that I've seen the town make in events, but also in the sort of improvements to the natural environment and to the built environment, I think are wonderful investments, and they serve the community, and they'll serve the community for many, many years. So I've been very impressed with the leveraging. And I think one of the things in some of the activity I've participated in, both on the Public Services Committee, but also just in listening into, webinars and so forth, that this town invests in issues that are important to it, gives it a seat at the table with partners at the Purple Line, state highway, county government. We're not just a community that, makes requests without having skin in the game. And I think having reserves enables us to make investments that we otherwise could not make. And it gives us leverage that we wouldn't have on some of these other issues where we need, the partners to work with us.
Okay. All right. Tamara, any thoughts about our reserve fund? The uncommitted part of it, as Carlo, the uncommitted part, as Carlo clarified.
It's not something I've thought that much about, except that I have noticed that some very prudent decisions have been made about ways to use some of the excess funds. And for example, the recent improvements to Zimmerman Park, and there was, I guess, some kind of a water creek control project that, was helpful in our neck of the woods. So what I would think is that, not knowing what the future is economically, that, better safe than, than thinking of too many things to spend the money on. But I would think that whatever the decisions are that the town council would make, it would be through some consensus and support of the community.
Okay. All right. Thank you both. Now let's go to housing, another tricky question, another area. So we'll make this one for 25. Okay. So Tambra, one of our residents asked, what would be your position on the proposed rezoning changes in the town? Do you support or oppose allowing for higher density on Connecticut Avenue and East-West Highway?
So what I would say first of all is, what my sort of private position is versus, a position that I would take as part of, if elected to the town council, would, very likely be different insofar as with the latter, it would be a position developed after talking to neighbors and understanding what people's feelings are. I will say that I live on Lynn Drive, and that is one street over from East-West Highway, and our backyard abuts the people who are on East-West Highway. So it's definitely something I will be studying, and I will be interested to know if the details, if the stated aims of the of whatever the policy proposal ends up being, are actually accomplished through that I guess, policy vehicle? And, what are the costs to the community and what are the costs to the neighbors?
Okay. All right. Thank you. Carlo?
Yeah, it's also an area that I would need to study a lot more. I'm aware of it, but not in the level of detail that I think I need to be, very clear about pro or con. I will say that whatever development, whatever authorized development does happen, it's critically important in my view that it be thoughtfully executed, and the community has a lot of ability to shape how development takes place. And so if there, if zoning changes happen in a way that allow for more density, I think we need to play a very active role in making sure that is done in a way that mitigates impact of all types to our community. And that's something that, having worked on development projects, many development projects, a constituency like ours has a great influence on the execution of new development. And when that's done well, it can actually be a contribution to the community, not just to those who are living directly in a new housing development, for example.
Okay. Well, this is sort of a related question on housing. And one of our residents wants to know if you have any ideas for helping create more reasonably priced housing in the area without, of course, sacrificing the town's character and the environment. So if you do, I think you'd be doing well to share those ideas with us. So Tamara, anything on that?
I've been following the issue and I know how important it is to, expand the reasonably priced housing, but I don't have any innovative ideas just as of yet.
Okay. All right. Carlo, anything to add to that?
Yeah, that's a tough thing to do. I mean, particularly, there's supply, and demand. There are, areas. I mean, we have so much to offer that I think it makes it very appealing. I think in the more areas of the county, including those adjacent to us where there's very dense development, I know that there are inclusionary housing requirements with some of those projects. And I think that's a way for some portion of new housing units to be, at more affordable income levels, but affordable income levels, what may be below market could still be very far out of reach for many people. So it's a challenge.
That's true. Well, let's take a change for a second. And Karen, are there any questions that you want to mention? Not at the moment. Okay, let's dive back into potpourri for a moment here. And if you would share a little bit with the residents, a little bit about you personally, things that you like to do when you're not volunteering for the town, maybe something about you that you think residents might not know and would be interesting to them. So Tambra, do you want to go over that one?
So what do I like to do? I think I might have written already that I enjoy reading and going, to the movies, to the theater. Sorry. I enjoy reading, going to the movies, along with my husband, the theater. We also like to travel. And one thing maybe people don't know about me is that I was an exchange student to Sweden when I was in high school, and I still speak Swedish.
Wow.
Ja.
Can you say something for us?
Vad ska jag säga? Jag vet inte.
Carla, what did she say?
I can't translate that.
Okay.
But in my other time, along with my wife, we enjoy outdoors, some hiking, and I played tennis pretty regularly and, pretty active generally. We have an adorable but sometimes anxious little dog that we like to walk around the neighborhood quite a bit. And with our two sons being distant from us, travel when we can to, do things together with them. In terms of something about me that people might not know, I immigrated to this country as an infant from Italy, and I did not speak any English until elementary school in East Baltimore, where I grew up. And I managed to have neither an Italian American, or East Baltimore accent that is discernible to me. So I think of that as an accomplishment.
All right, well, fascinating. So that's great. And thank you. Let me come back to environment for one more question there. And of course, we all love our canopy trees in the town. They're beautiful, but we don't love them falling on our houses. And so I wonder if you have any thoughts on, balancing, maintaining and loving our trees with protecting residents from trees. Tamara?
It's something I have thought about recently because a big tree branch fell down on a power line on Lynn Drive just last weekend and caused several hours of loss of power. I also love trees, and I love the fact that we have a beautiful neighborhood with lots of trees, canopy trees. I don't know, I guess I would like to know more about why the branches are falling and what it is about the health of the trees that could create risks. And so I look forward to learning more and possibly, interacting with the town arborist and neighbors to figure out how we can be more vigilant and still enjoy the beautiful trees.
Okay, thank you. Carlo?
Yeah, I'm also for trees and against tree limbs falling.
That's a good position.
Actually, in the first year that we moved here, a limb fell on my tree. It was parked just across the street from our house because we had some workers in our house and I couldn't park right in front of our house. And officer knocks on the door and I thought I was in some sort of trouble. And he says, "Is that your car over there?" And the one with the big branch going through. So, yeah, I think encouraging, for the town trees, certainly our, wonderful arborists to inspect and do preventive action if it's called for, but also encouraging neighbors to consider, where we lived some time ago, there was a humongous tulip poplar that hovered over our house and it made me very nervous. And we would have an arborist come out and put cables on the tree and so forth. So I think encouraging that, getting to the, and one other thing I would say for utilities, and I think Pepco in recent years has really stepped up their proactive tree trimming, because there was a period of time not that long ago where it seemed like we were losing power all the time in Montgomery County. And I think they've been more proactive about that, which, may have an aesthetic impact, but when you've got tree limbs over power lines and so forth, that's a dangerous thing. So making sure that particularly those limbs over utilities are well maintained, I would support that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, maybe a final question here. I wonder what you see coming down the pike, Tambra, in terms of issues that we're maybe not quite focused on yet, but maybe new things, and also what issues you personally would like to dig into a little bit more in your time in the council.
In terms of what I imagine is coming down the pike, I wonder if we're going to have more environmental issues in terms of more weather events and, more temperature related issues within, the sort of more concrete issues. We seem to be presented with issues around development and the increased density. And in terms of issues that I would be interested in working on more or learning more about, I have been concerned about pedestrian safety. So I would look forward to interacting with the Public Safety Committee to understand what's been happening, because I haven't really followed that committee, and to, see if people are also concerned as I am with pedestrian safety. And the last, as we also have a dog, and we recently added to our family, possibly helping advocate for a dog park in the Women's Farm Market project would be something I would be interested in.
Okay, all right. Carla, what's your crystal ball tell you is coming around the corner, and what would you like to be
It
involved in?
reminds me of, I think, a quote that's attributed to Yogi Berra. You know, predictions are very hard to make, especially about the future, right?
Yeah.
But I think many of the same things Tambra touched on. I think severe weather is one of the things we should probably anticipate and prepare for. And I mean, we can't do things necessarily that are going to change things globally, but you know, develop, you know, having resilient practices for us and being prepared, I think is an important thing for us to do. The development around us, it's wonderful in a lot of ways, and it also will add to the challenges of traffic and parking and safety. And I think those sort of quality of life issues in the town itself, I think are very important to tend to. And I do think that even though I've only lived in the town for a few years, I've been in Montgomery County for many, many years. And the town, I think, really is still the vibe of the place seems very much like it did decades ago, even as development around us has increased. And I think that's a tribute to the community and the leadership in the community to make sure that attention is paid to the quality of life issues. And we need to keep doing that going forward. And, you know, safety, traffic, noise, we'll always have those to be vigilant about protecting.
All right, thank you. You know, we're going to wrap up the formal part in a minute, but I hope you will stick around to entertain some questions from the audience here, get in a little more depth with some folks who have deeper questions than we could get to now with this group. But Karen is telling me she's been keeping track of the score, and it looks like we have a tie here. But I can say that the winners are the residents of our town, and we are very, very lucky to have two great candidates running for town council. And we thank you guys for your time tonight and your great questions, answers, and your service that you're about to embark on. So thank you very much.
Thank you.